Hi, I am Dr. Kim Sage. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I am so glad you're here today. This is part of my daily series, Monday through Friday, on helping us truly understand our wounds and attachment stories and how all of that connects to often the brain function we use, basically our trauma brain, the brain sort of adaptations we had to develop and create in childhood to survive childhood, and how we can often get stuck in those today, in ourselves, in our nervous systems, in our relationships, really in everything. And so if you're new here also, please check out the other videos I've already posted and know that I am truly glad you're here, and I hope you can take something with you of value from each video that I share. Please consider subscribing and checking the box, and that way you'll get notified when I post new videos. And please check out my link below on some courses I developed over the past year that I truly just poured my heart and research and hours and weekends into, all of them directed at different versions of helping you understand and heal from your childhood and how to engage in relationships today and to heal your life. Okay, enough of that beginning stuff. Let's get into it. These are 7 signs of anxiety that looks like it really came from your childhood. It's like we always want to blame our parents, and these really aren't meant to do that. But the truth is that alongside our genetics, so much of our story is shaped by what happens to us in childhood. And I've yet to see anybody who struggles with anxiety that didn't also have, even if they just came out of the womb that way, some elements in childhood that really tended to contribute to that. And so these are 7 signs of anxiety caused by your childhood. Now, really quickly, to define real anxiety, everybody has this sort of tendency to have some anxiousness in their lives. We need that hypervigilance and alertness and awareness and thinking about things to sort of, go through life. But for those of us who struggle with anxiety, it's kind of on hyperdrive mode. And so the anxiety is often disproportionate to the issue, right? You worry way bigger than what it should be. It's often severe and unrelenting. It can be hard to manage and control. You truly feel it in your body. And at the end of the day, it's kind of chalked up to just, you're a worrier. But when you live with an anxious brain, it can be very difficult to get yourself out of that space. And so learning how to soothe your nervous system, we'll come back to that at the end of this video quickly, is going to be an important tool. You cannot just think your way out of anxiety, just with your mind, I should say, through thoughts, right? All right, so let's talk about 7 signs. Number 1, your parents were basically, generally, and consistently emotionally unreliable and unpredictable. And so you were often highly reactive and sensitive to the mind and mood of others. Basically, you just kind of never knew what you were going to get. And as a result, you've often become masterful at reading facial signs and nonverbals and tone of voice. But you're always listening for that because in your childhood, everything around emotions was unpredictable. Parents were mad one minute and not, maybe. They were, quick to fire with anger, or they were just maybe really loud and intense. And then, you just kind of never knew what you were going to get because their moods were hard at times to manage. Number 2, your parents were overly fear-based. So you were overly focused on worrying about and anxious about accidents, bad things happening, tragedies, and in the world we live in today, right, those kind of things are everywhere. And so it's really hard to manage. But going back to more anxiously attached styles and parents, those were the parents who really did fear well. They were really good at parenting when the child was afraid. And even that fear became like a kind of like a glue or a bond. The parents felt kind of confident, and don't do that, and you're going to die if you do this, and don't take a risk there. And I have seen a lot of adults who unfortunately do the same thing with their kids. They're just at every minute consumed by what bad things can happen. And while that's a possibility, living in that can be very stressful, but it often kind of takes its roots in parents who were very anxious that way. Number 3 is that your parents were often highly critical and hard to please. And so basically you've internalized this voice. I often call it the shame voice of the inner parent who talks to your inner child. So these parents had very high standards, and it was a competition, and it was never enough. And if you had an A-, why wasn't it an A, right? It's just that there was like this overdrive on criticalness, and it was just hard to get, positive feedback or rewards from them, even if they did give you that. And even if they did give you that, it might be like, well, you did great, but you could do better. So you've internalized that shame voice, that critical voice. And so it's always assessing and trying to figure out what you could do better. And that is very anxiety provoking. Number 4, there were financial issues that were prominent in some way. And so, whether your parents had it all and lost it, or it was never enough, or they did not have enough, there's an internalization that at any moment you're going to lose everything you have. And that often ties back to finances. Even if the evidence is that it's like not likely to happen, right? Your brain is sort of living in that adaptation of, yes, but I could lose it all. And so you feel anxious and panicked all of the time. Number 6 is that you keep choosing partners who treat you psychologically and emotionally like the parents you had. And so there's a constant repetition of these anxious responses and behaviors. In other words, the partners are highly demanding, and they're also hard to please and highly critical, or they're super unpredictable emotionally. And so you kind of are always reliving and acting out that internal cycle that you grew up with, and that is also very anxiety provoking. And the next one is your caretaking, which is often an adaptation to anxious parents, has become a way for you to focus on others and minimize your own needs. And as a result of that, your life is very stressful because you're often neglecting, your doctor's appointments, your self-care, your billing, your bank statements, your checkbook. And that increases your constant stress response and anxiety. And because you're focused on others, you're also taking on their stress and their worries. And so you're in your head about your partner and your kids and your boss and whatever it is, you're holding a lot of that anxiety. And like I'm saying, that doesn't just make you anxious, it holds their anxiety and worries, and it makes your life sometimes not as manageable or peaceful or balanced as it could be because of that. And lastly, you really don't believe you are worthy in general as a result of your childhood. And so because of all of these things I've kind of mentioned, you're constantly over-assessing, over-analyzing everything you do, trying to get it right so that, your child brain says, but this time I'm going to be perfect and mommy or daddy won't get mad at me or yell at me. But at the core, really as a result of everything I've already mentioned, you really don't feel good enough inside. And so you're always trying to figure out how to do it better or be better or change your appearance or do something else to get the internal feedback that you really want. But the core of that is a sort of I'm not worthy. And that is a very stressful way to go through life. So those are, I think, 7 of the most common signs. There are certainly more, but I think if you had a childhood defined by these dynamics, it is very likely you are struggling with anxiety today. And so as I said, I want to end each video with just something to direct you or suggest or provide support in terms of the topic. And this is a really big topic. Anxiety in general is one of those things that it does tend to respond on some level to high cardio exercise, to mindfulness, to meditation. There does need to be a nervous system and a body, though, awareness. That's what I was saying in the beginning. You can't it's not just a thinking problem, don't feel anxious, blah, blah, blah. It's about setting up your life in a way that helps you manage your anxiety, developing tools and ways to handle that, even though it's often driven by these internal systems and internal childhood beliefs and things like that. And so one thing I like to say is, first of all, cardio exercise, it really truly does help. Taking a walk, even if it's just a brisk walk, moving your body, I have found, is truly one of the most helpful things I can do. But to be honest, it's often the first thing I skip when I'm tired or fatigued or having like an autoimmune, sort of meltdown where I just can't move my body. And I tend to have an on and an off switch, which is a whole other therapy conversation. But what I know to be true with every ounce of who I am is that when I go out and take walks, whether it's in the morning or a brisk walk on the treadmill, or go out and try to be in the blue-green environment of nature, the research shows that that really can help our brains. But I do think, if it's just getting off the couch, take a walk. But the more you can move your body, just a fast walk, get your heart rate up, you will find that as the day wears on, or even the evening often, you'll sleep better, you'll feel more regulated. And all of that is, you guys, we all know this stuff, but it's really helpful. The second thing I want to just suggest that I really love is the container exercise. And I think I have an old video on my YouTube channel here about it. I should probably make a new one. But the idea of the container exercise is really good for worrying. And basically it's this, that actually, let me give you an example. I'll be right back. Okay, I know I've shared this before on other videos, but let me just show you this. So basically the container exercise is a visualization exercise. In your mind, you try to imagine that you are holding a container of some sort, or there's a container near you. It could be a giant pods thing for moving. It could be a little jewelry box with a ballerina. It could be a cardboard box. It could be something decorated in fabric or shells or crystals. Anything, a container of any sort. And you imagine sort of through a visualization that you're going over and you're picking up this box, and you try to imagine, what does it feel like in my hands? How heavy is it? What are the materials? And I actually have a box that I made. I got this tea box from Michael's. I think it was at the beginning of the 2020 situation. And it was like a project I did where I bought all these shells and I hot glue gunned them here. And the box is just kind of sitting around, but I actually made it as a visual aid. So this is my real box, but you're going to imagine one, right? But here's where I find it helpful. So in the imagery exercise, you want to imagine, and I'm going to show you, I don't even know, it just fell out. Oh, it was a mask, of course. Are all these little slots. See these little container, these little spots? Well, in your mind, this is what I do. When I'm worrying about something, I imagine my container, and I imagine that every single slot, every single little area here holds some part of my life. My sadness, my worries, my memories, my hopes, my dreams. And when I'm feeling like, let's say I'm trying to fall asleep and I'm like, oh my God, but what about this? And I can't stop thinking about it, but I know it's not going to help me. What I found to be helpful is to imagine putting that thought or that worry in one of these little spots in my visualization in my mind, and telling myself that I will come back to it tomorrow. And here's why it works. When we say, don't think about that, don't eat that, don't try that, it is like all we can think about. But with a container exercise, you're imagining just putting it away for now, and then allowing yourself to think, okay, I can come back to it later. And then for some reason, it doesn't always work. But a lot of the times it does when I say, you know what, over time I've developed this skill to say, okay, Kim, we're not going to think about that right now. We're going to think about it tomorrow. And so it's the same with anxiety. A lot of what we struggle with are these thoughts and projections of the future, and the what ifs and the overanalyzing and what do they think about me and all of that. And learning the skills to soothe your body, ideally, let's say doing some breathing while you're doing that, just some deep, breathing in and breathing out, exhaling longer than you inhale to slow your nervous system down, imagining like the container exercise. These things take practice, and my kids get so annoyed when I suggest these things, and they don't necessarily work for everybody, but they do work for a lot of people. So create your own concepts and ideas, but know that you have to work on your body to calm and soothe your nervous system. This is, of course, assuming you're not taking medication, but even if you are, there's a limit to where that can go, right? These are more holistic practices. And then developing in your body a practice of teaching your mind and body to soothe and calm and to become more in control. If you have the kind of anxiety that I have, that I've had my whole life, I don't think it's just going to never be there. I don't. I think it's, as I say to patients all the time, it's a management issue. It is trying to get in front of it and having the tools and knowing what to do to set up your day to respond in the ways that you might find helpful. So I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, I truly appreciate you, and I wish you so much love and healing on your journey. And know that you do deserve to be wildly loved. To wildly love yourself in the world is not an easy thing to do. And I'm hoping that this series helps us break down a lot of the blocks that get in the way of our self-care and self-compassion and self-love and relational love for ourselves in the world. So I will see you tomorrow. Please take care and stay safe. Bye, guys.